All right, hello everybody. It's the Meister from Brews and Tunes. Cheers. Got a very special occasion today. I'm very excited about this. This is this we've done this once before and it was very fun. It was great. So we're doing it again. So 5 beers with 5 badasses, as I like to call it. 5 beers, 5 albums, 5 badasses. So anyway, I'll introduce everybody and then we'll jump into it, talking about some of our favorite albums, from some of our favorite beers. And this edition is we're doing kind of dark metal, black metal, extreme metal, essentially, and dark beers or whatever. So we run pretty loose here, so with the rules, so we'll kind of
a big whatever on my part. I'm definitely a fan of the loggers.
All right, that works. All right, so I'll get started and introduce everybody, and then we'll jump into our pairing. So start with on my left anyway. I've got Brittney Slayes, of course, vocalist of Unleash the Archers, one of my favorite power metal bands. Also, I guess you do a lot of guest vocals, and most recently that's been released that I'm aware of is you did some work on with Star One, which is very cool. I meant to ask you about that before the show and forgot to ask that until just now. Of course, it popped in my head. I'm like, oh yeah, I got to ask you about Star One. So very cool. So Brittney Slayes.
Thank you.
On my right, I've got Taylor Emerine, drummer extraordinaire from Dismemberment, as well as Botched Suicide, Satanicunt, and several other bands. He's also a drum teacher. So welcome, Taylor. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. It's glad to be back. Really glad to be a part of this and drinking a dark beer now, actually.
Oh, there you go. What are you drinking?
It's actually on my list. It's a Two Tones Brewing Company. It's local. I'll talk about it again later, but it's a Irish Maiden porter.
Oh, cool.
So
very cool.
Yeah, sounds very tasty.
Nice. All right. And then joining me also are two of my best friends, my buddy Jeff Baxter, who I've known for many moons. We go way back, and fellow metalhead, and I've gone to many concerts together. And I believe my daughter at the time, who's now 20 or about to turn 20, was 9 years old at the time. But I think the two of you at Iron Maiden singing The Trooper together was at the top of your lungs, and both doing this as you're singing.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of one of my favorite memories. So anyway, so cheers. Thanks for joining us, Jeff. Yeah, and then last but not least, my good buddy Jerm, Jeremy Evans, who of course this was his brainchild, this whole idea of doing these beers and albums together. So known Jeremy for a long time, great friend and rocker as well. Played in several thrash bands over the years, and I think I first saw you in Havoc, not to be confused with Havoc now.
The real Havoc.
But Havoc of the 80s in Ogden, Utah. So killer thrash band. Exactly. So way back. All right. Well, we'll jump into this. I'll start it off, and then everybody else can take their turns, and we'll go for it. So all right. So my first up is, and unfortunately I don't have this on vinyl. I need to get this on vinyl, but I've got, see if I can get it without the so Celtic Frost, To Megatherion, one of my all-time favorite albums, and probably one of my, if not the first extreme metal album I ever owned, one of the first, but it really kind of opened my eyes to a lot of different styles of music. And I mean, I can't say enough about how mind-blowing it was for me, that just from that opening, the opening tracks, and I'd never heard anything like that. Just such intensity and strange tempo changes, and just kind of Tom Warrior's vocals, kind of reminiscent of Lemmy, but a little darker, and just such dark material, and kind of this whole, I think it was the first album I ever had that kind of anti-establishment, anti-religion, and it just kind of opened a lot of doors for me musically in a lot of ways. So pairing that with a tweak from Avery Brewing, which is a gigantic monster. I think it's the biggest stout I've ever had. It's 17.8%.
Jesus.
Whoa. And
Wow.
yeah, definitely
Be careful of that one.
yeah, it's definitely a sipper. Or a share, one you want to share. Luckily it's only 12 ounces, but it still was, it's like taking shots. The scary thing is it goes down pretty smooth, that it's especially for something that big. But I thought just with the complexity of and the flavors, and I think it's aged in bourbon barrels and coffee, so you get really hammered, and also you're amped up because of the coffee. So
the perfect brunch beer.
Yeah, perfect brunch beer, perfect beer to thrash your head, get a headache and a neck ache from banging your head to Celtic Frost. So all right, next up on my list would be, and hopefully, sorry, I've got a bit of a glare here, but Possessed Seven Churches.
Right on.
So, of course, kind of deemed as, maybe the first death metal album. It definitely, had, the song Death Metal that's on the album is what coined the phrase death metal. Yeah, just something that just kind of blew my mind. I'd never really heard anything like that when I first heard them way back in the day. And, because it was, the era of thrash metal, and I would argue that still was basically thrash metal, but there was just this much darker element to it, and something more intense that I had ever heard before. And I always thought it was interesting too that it Larry, the guitar player, is, of course he left Possessed after Possessed broke up and formed Primus with Les Claypool. I always thought that was such an interesting transition musically, going from extreme metal to Primus.
Lair.
So pairing that with a local beer here, this is from Epic Brewing. This is the Big Bad Baptist Naked. And you see it says censored there, he's blurred out. But I thought, one, just kind of funny, Seven Churches, Big Bad Baptist. And also a big, bold imperial stout that is aged in whiskey barrels. And they actually do, this is a series of beers. They do quite a few of these. A lot of them have added, berries and things like that. They experiment with flavors quite a bit, but I kind of like the Naked because it's just the original. So it's just bourbon barrels. So it's got a nice oaky flavor. And chocolate and coffee, but it's all just from the actual beer itself, not from any additives. So always a fun one to drink. And also not as big as that last one, but fairly big. It's it's 13%. Another one you want to share. So, but I think, with that kind of intensity of music, you want something big. You want a nice big crazy beer to go with it. All right, my next album up and beer up is Death, Leprosy. And this one was tricky. I really love Death a lot. I think Chuck was a revolutionary, groundbreaking musician. And so I debated on which Death album because I love them all a lot. And but Leprosy always kind of spoke to me a little bit more, maybe not. I think depending on which Death album I'm listening to is my favorite at the time. But I always really liked that lineup, with Rick Ross and Terry Butler. And that's the only album that Rick Ross actually played on. I interviewed him not too long ago, and he was telling me about it. And he subsequently was fired right when they were touring on this album because he said they were in New York, I guess. And the band they were going back to Florida, and he stayed in New York. And he said, it was because of a girl. So, he basically was fired because of love or lust or, whatever it was at the time. So, but anyway, killer album, so many great hooks. And like I said, it was such a revolutionary album at the time. And I think still, definitely stands to this day. So I'm pairing that with another local beer, Saltfire. This is the Heavy Metal Parking Lot. And this is it's not really a Schwartz beer. It's just a black American lager, but it has similar flavors to a German Schwartz beer. Sorry, it's hard to see with the glare on there. But just with, kind of a nice crushable beer. It's, I think it's only, it's 6.66%, which I thought was fun. But it's, very crushable, kind of easy drinking. And I think goes well when you're, banging your head to the might of death. So that is
Okay.
my fourth one, and I'm going to go in now into the black metal realm. So I've got Dark Throne, Ablaze in the Northern Sky, and I always liked Dark Throne's approach, and this may upset some people, but I always felt that they were in some ways more important maybe than even Mayhem to the black metal scene. I'm probably going to get some hate mail for that, but just in terms of, Mayhem, of course, was revolutionary with their first album, but I always thought Dark Throne was a little more interesting musically, and just they're so atmospheric, and just. And I'll admit, it took me a while to get into black metal. When I first heard it, I did not like it at all. But the more I listen to it, the more I've come to appreciate it and love it, really. And Dark Throne is definitely one of my favorites of that genre. And so I thought this was very fitting. I've got a black metal beer. Is the name of the beer. Black Metal from Jester King out of Texas. Also a big Imperial Stout. My friends Jason and Sonia got this for me a while back. I don't know what the percentage is on this one, but it's pretty bold. Another one that you want to probably share with some people, so you don't end up on the floor. But yeah, great beer. Really, and it goes well with the atmospheric, the dark atmosphere of Dark Throne, I think, in a lot of ways. All right, and last but not least, I am going on the grindcore path with Scum by Napalm Death, their very first album. And I would say this isn't my favorite Napalm Death album, but I do like it a lot. But it also just was such a revolutionary album. Arguably the first grindcore album. I know the drummer Mick Harris coined the phrase grindcore. And the interesting thing about this album, which I always thought was really strange, was the first side and the second side are two completely different bands apart from Mick Harris. He's the only constant from the first side to the second side of the album. And the first side A was recorded, and then a year later, side B was recorded again with completely different people apart from Mick, which was interesting. But just such a crazy album. You could argue the first side is almost more really kind of just hardcore punk with some metal, but whereas I think the second side was really kind of, they kind of were defining kind of that grindcore sound or creating that grindcore sound at the time. So always an interesting album, always an interesting band. One thing I thought was funny too is this album, and I don't know if it still stands, but they were in the Guinness Book of World Records for the shortest song.
Sorry.
And, there's a 7-second song on the album, and at the time it was the shortest, and they got in the Guinness Book of World Records, which I thought was pretty entertaining. So anyway, Scum. And then to go with Scum, I thought I would go with Morning Grind, which is it's a morning, it's from Ales from the Crypt is the name. It's kind of cool label. But it's a breakfast stout, basically. It's also pretty big. It's 14.2%. I did share this one with my wife. And it's really bizarre because it's got maple syrup in it. It basically tastes like breakfast. You get kind of coffee, you get kind of a bacon flavor, you get pancake batter kind of flavors, and then maple syrup. It's really interesting, but not something I drink a lot of, but it was fun. And I thought, especially with the name Morning Grind, perfect for a grindcore album. So those are my 5 albums and my 5 pairings. So we'll turn it over to you, Brittney.
Nice.
Yeah. Good.
That was awesome. I literally don't have the physical of anything, so I feel
I'm in the same boat.
So I was like trying to take screenshots of the records. I'm like, at least I should show a photo or something, and I accidentally hit play on one of them, of course.
I was thinking of just bringing them up on Spotify and putting them onto the camera, I guess, or something.
Yeah, right. I was like, I don't want to, share my screen with you guys so that you can see the. But so I'll start with, I don't know if it's it's not really I don't know. I'm not I can't say what an extreme metal album is, personally. I'm not like a big genre person. I don't know. I probably am like, oh yeah, I listen to black metal, but it's really not, or whatever, you know. So I'm just
Same
not
here.
like a huge, yeah. So I'm just kind of like the heaviest albums that I like are on my list here. And then I am trying to take photos of the beers too. So I don't know if you're gonna be able to see them on my phone or not, but so I guess I'm gonna start with probably one of my favorite like melodic death metal records of all time. It's The Living Infinite from Soilwork, which is from 2013. So it's an older record. I'm not sure if you guys can see that.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
This band I had never listened to them before ever, and they came through in like 2015 touring the record after this one, and I worked merch for them for the night in Vancouver just because their merch person, I can't remember what the issue was, but so I was like, oh yeah, sure, okay, whatever, you know. And I went and I worked the merch table, and when they came on stage, I was just like, oh my god, this is amazing, like Bjorn is amazing. And I fell in love with it immediately. And my buddy was at the show, and I was like, you're a Soilwork fan, right? He's like, yeah. And I was like looking at the table, I was like, which album do I buy and listen to? And he's like, oh, go with The Living Infinite. So I was like, okay, awesome, that sounds great. So I listened to that for like months, and I paired it with the beer that I was drinking at the time.
Oh, cool.
Which was this Stiegl Radler. I know this is not a dark beer at all. In fact, it's the opposite. It's mixed with like grapefruit juice, so it's like the lightest summery kind of beer ever. But I was really just kind of getting into Radlers at the time, and this was like the popular one. There's a lot of craft breweries in Vancouver that are doing Radlers and stuff now, but this was like the OG Radler. So this is the beer that I was drinking at the time when I discovered that record.
Nice. And
it's just super light. It's like, it's the best summertime beer because you can drink like 4 of them, you know, 4 of the tall cans all day long and not get like super wasted so that you want to just go home and pass out at 10 o'clock. So because it's like pretty low percent, it's like 3% or something like that. So and then when you get to the party at night, then you can start drinking the heavier stuff, and you don't feel like super bloated and overdone. So that's why I'm a big fan of Radlers. And I mean, I couldn't really say that the two things go together. They just happen to be, you know, what I was drinking at the time that I discovered and fell in love with Soilwork.
Nice.
The next one I'm going to do is Valeno from Flesh God Apocalypse. Again, like I said, I don't know if this is like extreme. It's super heavy to me, but it's also really melodic. I just can't really stand listening to records that aren't melodic. So this is one that I found right when it came out. I was super excited about it. 2019. It is like just front to back, no skips, like an amazing record. And listened to it for months, like on repeat, just because of how great it was, and used it to work out a lot as well. Actually, just put this on and you can work out, you know, for a full hour with this bad boy playing in the background. And yeah, I don't know, like I had always been a Flesh God fan, but it was like, you know, the singles here and there, tracks that everyone knew, kind of stuff. And then when this record came out, it was like, holy crap. And it actually was because I saw them play on the boat in 2019. And they played the first single, Sugar, from this record, and I was like, oh shit, like that's awesome. And I was like, okay, I'm very, you know, anticipatory for this record, and it did not disappoint. Nice. And what I was drinking at the time of discovering this record was the Apricot Octopus, again. Not dark at all. It's a sour from Parallel 49 with like, I don't know, it's hard to see. This little Apricot Octopus guy on the front. It's really, really tasty. It's like light and fruity, and I'm just the kind of person, you know, that comes home after a work day and just wants something that goes down really easy and fast. I mean, like all beers go down fast at the end of a work day. I know that, right. But this one was just particularly tasty, and I usually drink like 2 of them, and then I'd have like a nice buzz on for, you know, whatever, Netflix and chill, that kind of thing. Right. So yeah, it's super fruity, so it's really really tasty. Again, though, I'm not a dark beer drinker, so it was really funny when Victor asked me to do this. I was like, well, I don't drink dark beers, and like I'm not sure like what would constitute extreme metal, but I'll give it my best shot.
No, this is great. This is great.
The next record that I'm gonna go with is Apoptosis by Legion. So this was the first record that I heard from these guys. I really liked what they did on this record. It had a lot of like different musical influences, and kind of went some cool places with this record. So I haven't listened to the brand new one from them yet, but it's on my list. But this one I absolutely loved, and it was really funny because I reached out to Greg on Facebook afterwards and was like, oh man, I want to be in a death metal band. And he's like, really? Because I want to be in a power metal band. And I was like, well, let's swap it up. But again, like super heavy in my terms, and great vocalist. Although I do believe that the vocals changed right. I think it was either right before this or right after this record. So apparently the older stuff is very different. So I haven't gone back and listened to any of that yet, but I really, really thoroughly enjoyed that record.
Cool.
And again, what I was drinking when I discovered this album was the Solaris White Peach Ale from Phillips. Oh, it's like a white can, so it's really hard to see. But it's like super light. It's an ale, so it's one of this would be like considered a heavier beer for me. But it's also really good for the summertime and for like, you know, just having a couple beers with friends. Nothing crazy like, you know, you're 17.5%, where I would be absolutely like obliterated after one. I'm definitely the kind of person that likes to have a couple and, you know, get like a nice easy buzz on. So this one was really good for that. But again, super light and airy and just my kind of beer. The ales are really the darkest I'll go, and like maybe even like a red ale, but that's about it. The heavy stuff is just too much for me. And Scott had Scott should have been the one doing this actually, because he has like porters that he loves, and you know, a whole bunch. And can't remember what Guinness is considered, but it's really, he's got a couple like that he really likes. So I've definitely tasted them, and I like had, you know, it's not like I've been like this totally like writing them off. I've definitely tried them, and they're not for me, unfortunately. But and then I had
the ales are so good, and they go down so nice and smooth, and they taste great. So
yeah, exactly.
You know,
it's
nothing
like
wrong with that at all. Yeah,
exactly. And then I have The Great Collapse by Fit for an Autopsy. This is also the first record that I heard from these guys. It's their 2017 album. Not sure if you can see it.
Yeah. Nice.
And again, really rad. I love the screamer in this band. I don't know his name. I'm really bad for that. But he has such incredible range, and it never gets boring. It's never, you know, sometimes you can listen to screamers and they just kind of do the same thing, and it gets a little bit repetitive. And I mean, that's probably, you know, just me being a vocalist and being like, where's the notes, you know? Like, but I found that this record to be really very melodic, you know, for a screamer. So I really absolutely loved this album. Cool. And I was just listening to this one, like, I think I only discovered it like last summer, probably. And that one, I didn't get a photo of the beer for it. I don't know if I should try and search for it now or not, but I was drinking Radlers, and I was drinking the Phillips Radler, which is a local brewery from Victoria, who is kind of making it big in the mainland here, and they just have like an insane breadth of beers, and they're all brewed locally, and they're all really, really, really tasty. And they bring them in the season, so it's like dark stuff in the winter and really light stuff in the summer. And I don't know if you guys have seen our Fast and Light music video, but we all crush a different can of Phillips.
Yeah, that's right.
Before we race. And I think I was drinking the Radler in that video, if you want to go back to that. And it's like, just again, a really light, airy beer. I was listening to the record in the summertime, so it's constantly, drinking Radlers all summer long, just keeping it light and airy. And again, it's a grapefruit Radler, which is like the traditional kind of thing, but you have a lot of different craft breweries doing all different flavors now, like every kind of juice you could ever think of. So really exciting. And then my last record is, again, I know that this album maybe is probably considered a little bit more folky than our old stuff, but True North by Bork Negar. And
cool.
I originally had this like as a suggestion on Spotify, which I absolutely love. I listen to Spotify all the time, and I'm constantly going through my recommendations and just like sounding artists and stuff like that. And my favorite thing to do is like listen to one track from a band that I love, and then Spotify just kind of slots in like sounding bands after that. So that's how I discovered these guys. And I can't remember who I was talking to about it, but I was wearing my Bork Negar hat, and they were like, "Oh, Bork Negar, like I haven't heard anything from them in like 20 years." And I was like, "Oh my God, they really?" I thought they were new, because like they just released this album, and I like just discovered it, and I was like, "Oh man, this is like the greatest thing ever." It's very kind of folky and melodic, but still super black metal-y, and amazing record. And I've been listening to that one pretty solid, mostly throughout the last year and a little bit this year as well. So I thought I would pair that one with the newest Superflux, which is another local brewery, and it's actually right down the street, so it's really, really bad. It's really close. And what they've done is they've created, like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with, I don't know if this is a Canadian thing, like Orange Crush and Grape Crush and like, crushed sodas.
Yeah.
They created what they call Purple Drink.
Nice.
It's
Purple Drink.
Exactly. And it's Grape Crush. It literally is Grape Crush.
Nice.
And it's so good, and it smells like a soda when you first open it, and you're like, what am I drinking? But then it's really tasty. It's like really good. It doesn't have that same like carbonated sweetness that Grape Crush does. It definitely finishes, like a beer. You can tell that it's a beer, but that first initial sip is always like reminiscent of like being a kid at summer camp drinking Crushes. Fountain beer, that's what it's called. Yeah, thanks. And so that's kind of that's what's popular right now. It's new at Superflux, so it's just like we constantly have like a 4-pack in the fridge, and that's basically it. Yeah.
Nice. Very cool. Cheers.
Right on.
That was great.
Hey,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cheers, man.
All right. Very cool. Well, thank you, Brittney. Let's hear from you. Taylor, what have you got for us?
Oh boy, I'm up. Oh, let's go. Well, I don't have the records. I'm not fortunate enough to, or I really have the old, not to say like old beer cans is a bad thing to have around. I'm sure you guys take care of them nice, but I don't have anything. So I'm just going to kind of go off my list and pair everything up accordingly. First album, I'm going to go number one, my all-time favorite death metal album. The album that didn't leave my CD player when I first bought it. In about 2007 or 8, I bought it and it didn't leave my CD player for months. And that's Cannibal Corpse, Tomb of the Mutilated. To me, you just kind of can't top that as this essential death metal. Everything about it, the starting tempo of it is a million miles an hour. The bomb blast beats, it's in my opinion, like for the 90s, like the best drum sound that came out of Moore Sound Studios in Tampa. Like that, it's just amazing. I love everything about it. Chris Barnes vocals, and it was, in my opinion, of that, like the Barnes era, it's the best album. So, and I figured, when I'm listening to Cannibal Corpse, I like to drink a lot of beers. So I'm going to drink. If I want to be drinking something dark, I want to be able to drink a lot of them. So I'm going to pair that up with something a little bit more, less craft, but more, what do you want to call it, domestic, with Yingling, their porter. I love their porter. It's good stuff. It's affordable too. You can get a 6-pack of it for like $8. So gotta love that. Anytime you can get a decent tasting beer without spending $20 is, you know what I mean, good day. So that would be my first one. On to number 2. That's going to be Death's Human album. Death, that record was the first one for me that introduced me to Sean Reinert, the drummer who, in my opinion, changed the game for technical death metal drumming. He was the first one that I ever heard or noticed that started playing really jazzy drum parts and stuff. And for me, that was everything. And plus Chuck's vocals on that one sound great. All the solos are amazing. And you got Steve DiGiorgio, who's, I mean, come on now. He's every bass player's favorite bass player in death metal. So to pair that one as well, I figured I'd go with something that was local, and that is the Two Tones Irish Maiden Porter, which is what I'm drinking right now. It's actually, Two Tones is a local brewing company by two buddies. They're actually two friends of mine. They're both named Tony. So Two Tones, there you go with that. Gotcha. Yeah, and they're out of Columbus, Ohio. So if you're ever stopping through Columbus anywhere and you happen to see a Two Tones, feel free to give them a try. It's really good. Just nice, tasty porter, medium body. It's not too heavy, so it's pretty palatable. It's 6.5%, so it does kind of make it a little slightly dangerous if you have too many of them. You can, you know what I mean. Right. I usually drink a lot of light, domestic beer, either light beer or something. So anytime I get over in like the 6 or 7% range, I'm like, okay, monitor yourself here.
Yeah. I'm usually slipping whiskey whenever I drink beer too, so I'm a huge whiskey fan. So, yeah.
Oh, right on, bro. Yeah,
it's a whole nother problem.
Yeah, I like my bourbon too. I like my bourbon too.
That's one of those ones where you drink one and then you evaluate from there.
Yeah. Bourbon and rye. Yeah. I kind of got in trouble actually on Thursday night. I was like, holy shit, I need to slow down.
Yeah, you get the tap on the shoulder, like, hey, let's dial it down now.
Yeah.
No, that's funny. I'll move on to the number 3. This one's a black metal album, and I actually had the fortune of playing with this band on 11/11/11. So November 11, 2011 at Peabody's in Cleveland, and that is Mayhem. Their D Mysterious Dom Santhanas record. That album just kind of blows my mind every time I hear it. I kind of find something, a little nuance that I didn't hear before, and either tremolo picking it with the riffing and everything, and just the way everything sounds. I don't know, like the blast beat behind it is kind of rushes and waves in and out, and just the way everything flows with that record is so good. And of course, Attila's vocals. They're so incredible. It's just amazing to me. And I got to see, you can't see like the original lineup, but I got to see him with Attila and Necro Butcher. And so it's Mayhem always had a little special spot in my heart. And so does that record. And I'm going to pair that up with a local brew out of Athens, Ohio, that's called Jackie O's. They're a killer brewing company. You can get their beers pretty much anywhere in Ohio if you stop through, at least in the southern part of the state. And it's called it's their Dark Apparition Stout. It's a very heavy stout. If I'm not mistaken, it's like 11% alcohol. It was like the highest percent you could have before Ohio changed their liquor law a few years ago, where you could have higher percentages than 11 or 12%. But at the time, it was the Mac Daddy. If you wanted the heavy high percent beer, it was the one that you went for.
One and done.
Yeah. One and done. They was also, they were the first. I believe they were one of the first ones around here to start selling in 4-packs too, because of the alcohol percentage. I think they were the first one of the first ones to start doing that. But yeah, that's just a really killer, tasty beer, and of course, very very sad. Everything you'd want in a Stout. So that's with black metal. It's everything I want in a record is from the De Mysterious album. So
Cool.
Yeah. Next up, number 4. This album, I don't know how some people feel about it. I almost got in some people have tried to fight me over wearing the t-shirt out sometimes. And that's Macabre's Dahmer record. Some people don't feel too positive about wearing a shirt that might promote, something like that. But I love Macabre and I don't care. They're great guys, great musicians, and it's all historical more than anything. It's factual information what they're singing about for the most part. And that record is just so crazy. It's such a wild ride. It's the only, I forget what movie I compared it to, but you can do anything and listen to that record. You can laugh, you can cry, you can headbang, you can sing along, you can dance to it. It's just the funniest death metal record, but like the most brutal, amazing, awesome death metal record all at the same time. And I love Dennis Ritchie's drumming. He's one of my favorites. He's an awesome dude. And I'm going to pair that with another local brew again, Edmonds Fitzgerald Porter from Great Lakes Brewing Company. And they're out of Cleveland, Ohio, which is fitting. Cleveland, that was the wreck of the Edmonds Fitzgerald. That's where it took place. It's a very tasty porter and a very smoky porter. It's got a lot of smoke to it, which I really, really like chocolatey, smoky notes. It's my favorite porter you can buy, and it's available pretty much anywhere you go to. I just really like it. I can't think of any other good notes to really top it off on, but it's a killer beer if you ever see it or get to try it. And of course, you can listen to the record of the Edmonds Fitzgerald while drinking it. And I've done that and laughed to myself because with no one around. Sorry to say, yeah, I'll move on. Last step. I get nervous and I start ranting. Pardon me. Number 5 is going to be Morbid Angels Gateways to Annihilation.
Great album.
That album is such a standout record for anything really. I mean, if you're a guitar player, that's a fast record to try to play along with Trey's weird lava riffs that just kind of melt. I don't know how to really. There's so much to cool about it. What was Steve Tucker? That's the vocalist, bass player, killer vocals. And when he was, I don't know if that was the first record or second record that he was on, but that's awesome. Of course, Pete Sandoval's drumming. I mean, good Lord. And then Eric Rutan was on that record too. So It's just how could you top that lineup? Every song on it rules. You don't skip a song on it. And I'm going to pair that up with 3 Floyd's Maloco Stout. Maloco off of obviously a reference to Clockwork Orange, and the packaging even looks like the Clockwork Orange kind of style too. And 3 Floyd's is not local. They are a brewing company out of Munster, Indiana, and they are hands down my favorite brewing company. There's no brewing company to me that's really better than them. Every beer that they have, it doesn't matter if it's the darkest stout that you could get, which the Maloco Stout it's a milk stout, so it's not too heavy, but it's always refreshing. It doesn't leave your mouth ever feeling sticky or dry. You can drink a real nice heavy craft beer and it's still very palatable. So really crushable beers, and I think a really cool one to top off. I mean, in the list. So
nice. Very cool.
Cheers.
Yeah,
Awesome.
cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you. That was great.
Cheers.
Yeah, I've only had I've always wanted to go to 3 Floyds. I've had one of their beers, and I love the fact that they do metal, like they do metal beers. They get together with bands. I've had the Cannibal Corpse Red Ale. I was at a party and somebody brought it and let us all taste it, and it was delicious. That was years and years ago, but yeah, cool, really cool brewery. All right, we'll move on to Mr. Jeff Baxter. What do you have for us, my friend?
Okay, mine are so you could probably say I'm like I've been into metal for a really long time, but a bit of a novice when it comes to like black, dark, really, heavy in your face metal, and so a lot of these bands that you guys are recommending, it's like I'm writing them down and like I want to check them out and get more into it and stuff. But I come from kind of like I got started on thrash, so that's kind of my background. But my first pairing is going to be a band that I consider to be kind of like almost like the pioneers of extreme metal, you know, like they're almost like just were who they were, didn't care. Motorhead and the album No Remorse, just because it's got so many good songs on it, you know what I mean? And I have to give some respect to Lemmy, you know, because he just, I don't know, he was just such a righteous dude, and just, you know, he was him and he didn't care what anybody thought, and which is kind of part of what I like about metal in general. You know, you can be whoever you want, you know, and it doesn't matter, you know. So and then the beer that I paired with that, I had to do this. It's not like a super dark beer or anything. It's an American pale ale, actually. But I mean, how could I not pair it with this beer here? So
Nice.
This was actually a gift from Kirk. So I don't know that I'll ever even open these. I don't know, but yeah, that's my first one. So I'm a huge Motorhead fan and everything like that. So that's my first one. And my second album, well, so Motorhead, I just, you know, like, they were faster than anybody else, and no one sounded like Lemmy's voice, you know, and they just were so groundbreaking at the time. I mean, you know, just in the 70s, I mean, like no one was doing that, you know, like, it was just crazy. And so to me, they're just like the pioneers. They paved the way for everybody to just be able to get more extreme and do more creative things and be whatever kind of artist they wanted to be, you know? Yeah, so Motorhead has a really special place in my heart. And we'll move on to number 2. I went ahead and paired High on Fire, which is one of my favorite bands ever. I'm a huge Matt Pike fan, and you know, and the drummer, I can't think of his name right now, but he's just, I love his drum lines, and just the way he plays the drums. It's just awesome, you know. You can't beat it. And the High on Fire album was Luminiferous. Sorry, I think I forgot to say that. But Luminiferous, and the beer that I paired that with is a beer from Proper Brewing. They're a local brewing company here out of Salt Lake, and they made a beer, Carcosa. So this is a barrel-aged Groot style ale with herbs, and it's 9.5%. So it's a slightly big boy, you know. But yeah, and this one is 650 milliliters, so it's a bigger one, you know, so probably a good one to share with people. But I don't know if I can ever open it because it's got such a cool label, and you know, I just kind of want to keep it forever. But yeah, like, and you know, High on Fire, I'm a huge fan of Sleep too, you know, but High on Fire is kind of more like gets into my, you know, just really speaks to me because it's like, you know, faster, so it's more thrash like, you know, and just feels like fire, you know. Just like, I don't know how to explain it really, but just such a good band, and Luminiferous is such a good album. Just another one where you can just let it play, you know, and just go and listen to the whole thing, you know. So yeah, huge High on Fire fan. I mean,
nice.
So all right, so the next one is another band that I wouldn't really consider them to be extreme metal today, but when I was 10 years old and they came and I started seeing their concerts on MTV and, you know, their videos and stuff. Iron Maiden, The Number of the Beast. I mean, their music like isn't extreme as far as, I mean, at the time it was extreme because their lyrics were talking about 666 and the beast and, you know, the devil and, you know, the seventh son and all that stuff, you know. And it's like, okay, so at the time I feel like they were extreme and kind of helped pave the way for everybody. And then just their theatrics and their stage presence, and, you know, Eddie, I mean, like, it blew my mind when I saw Eddie the first time, and he's like animatronic and like 30 feet tall or something, you know, and just kind of changed my life, you know, like really just seeing that was just like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. You know, like who are these people? And then the 3 guitars, and they're just like they're you know, where they play off the octaves of each other. You know, I kind of got turned on to that by my dad when I was like, you know, 5 years old. He's listening to Boston, you know, and so Iron Maiden just really sung to me, and I was just like, I love those, you know, the different octaves and the guitars, you know, kind of melodically playing together, and just, yeah, you know, I mean, how can you not love Iron Maiden?
Right.
And the beer I chose for them is one of my favorite local breweries, Fisher Brewing Company, and the Beast of Zion
Nice.
beer.
Fitting.
Yeah. So it's a really good beer. It's a blonde, heavy blonde lager, I think. Right, Kirk? I looked it up, and you know, my brain is too old. So anyway, it's a really good beer, easy to drink, but kind of, you know, still has you know, nice heavy, you know. Oh, it's a Belgian Golden Strong Ale. So it's heavy, it's 9%, you know. But it's
Those
actually
Belgians.
yeah, they're good, but man,
Trouble.
you
Trouble.
gotta be careful, yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're so good. And yeah, I just thought I mean, I kind of tried to pair stuff that was like had something to do with the band or the album or the, you know, the name or something,
like
you
it.
know. That's
Yeah.
kind of what I was doing. So yeah. So my next album is really actually, you know, I'd say maybe, I don't know, Kirk, you might have to help me on the genre. You know, I'm kind of like Brittney. I don't know where all these fit in these boxes and stuff. And there's so many genres now. I'm just like, whatever. I love this. So that's
Yeah.
all that matters, right? You know?
Right.
So the next album is The Absence, an album called Riders on the Plague. Man, they're out of Tampa, Florida. I actually got to meet them. They came here once, and it was crazy. Their motorhome broke down in the middle of Idaho somewhere, and like they didn't get here till like midnight, and we had been just drinking and watching the other local bands play before them, and I just thought they were so cool because they didn't get here till midnight, and they still were like, there was like literally like 10 of us at the what was it, that bar, Club Vegas? You remember that place?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was at Club Vegas, and there was like 10 of us left, and they were like, you know what? Fuck it. We're gonna go ahead and set up everything, and we're gonna play anyway because you guys are still here. And they did, and it blew my fucking mind. Like Patrick Pintavale, or Pintavale, I can't remember how he says it, and Peter Joseph, like those two on the guitars, like the way that they bounce off of each other with their solos. And like, I'm a huge Van Halen fan, so like they're doing the flutters and the deep dive bombs and the, you know, just all that stuff, but they're also doing it so fast. Like I play guitar and I can't even try to play some of that stuff, you know. Jerm probably could, but not me. And it's just so good and so amazing. And Riders on the Plague, like The Absence right now has a completely different lineup than they did, except the singer I think is the same, and the drummer keeps coming and going, so I'm not sure who's their drummer right now. And their new albums are great, but they're a lot different. This Riders on the Plague album, just for me, it was almost like the perfect storm of 5 guys that got together and they just made this sound that just really speaks to me and sings to me. And it's got all that melodic, you know, 2 octaves thing that I'm just like crazy about, and I love it. Let me see. I'm gonna actually see if I can show you guys a picture of it, just so you can see it and not forget it, because I think every single person in this meeting should download this album and listen to it, especially if you haven't ever heard it. It's so good. Sorry, hold on. So that's what the album looks like.
Oh yeah.
It's just awesome. And the beer that I paired with that is another proper brewery, and this is just like, I had all these in my fridge, and so, you know, I'm just like going through stuff trying to say, okay, what can I pair with what? And this one's called Death in the Afternoon, so I thought it was fitting. And it's actually a gozy ale with passion fruit, guava, coriander, and salt, aged in rum barrels. So
Nice.
that's a mouthful.
That is a crazy beer.
Oh man, I love Goses.
Yeah, so
those are always really good.
If you want, I can mail one to you, Brittany. I've got a few of them.
It sounds really good.
Yeah, so pretty cool. It is a really good beer. It's 7.5%, and it goes down pretty smooth. So you got to be careful, you know, because it's one of those beers that's like fruity and stuff. So it's like summertime, it's hot, and you're just like you know, and then you're like, oh shit, I'm hammered. Okay.
Sneaks up on you.
Yeah.
Pretty high for a Gose.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Like it's a big one. So I guess it kind of fits in the heavy category.
Nice.
Okay, so my final one, I'm kind of a comedian, and I always like to add some kind of comedy aspect to anything I do. So this one is a really cool album, really cool band, but also it's kind of funny. So my album is Meshuggah Obscen, and great album. And that actually goes with that video. I hope you guys can hear the audio when I put this video on, because it's a Meshuggah song. But this beer is from Illuminated Beer Works. It's a double dry hopped double India Pale Ale. And it's called Brony.
Nice.
And it says beefcakes are bronies too. And so it's just really funny, and like I love it. And I thought it would be kind of funny to pair it with Meshuggah.
Nice.
So there you go. And this is actually a really good beer. It's let's see here, 7.5% again. Like just really good, hoppy, but like it doesn't get too bitter. It doesn't like leave that flavor in your mouth until like tomorrow, you know, and you're like trying to brush it out of your teeth. It's just a really good double India Pale Ale. So I just wanted to do that. And then I'm gonna share my screen just for a second here and see if I can get this to work with the sound and everything. Hopefully we can get it to go here. Okay, here we go. See?
That's adorable.
Nice.
Horse gets it, or the pony, because it's like bronies, you know?
Yeah,
Pony.
that goes. That's great. That's awesome.
Love it.
Awesome.
Anyway.
Cheers. Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah,
That was
cheers,
great.
guys.
Cheers.
You bet.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Last but not least, my buddy Jerm. What do you got for us?
Hey, okay. My first album is kind of my gateway album into extreme Scandinavian death metal, whatever metal. And a friend, my best friend growing up lived about 4 doors down from me. And we were best friends from kindergarten all the way to high school. And we were kind of like Wayne and Garth, right? But we both had blonde hair. We just lived and breathed metal. That's what we lived. I mean, metal was our life, you know. And so one day, his dad had bought a home satellite dish, right? And this was in the early mid '80s. So this thing was massive. It was like looked like it should have been on a military installation. It had like a concrete pad, a pole, motors. You know, it physically moved. But anyway, my buddy Scott calls me one day, Jeremy, you got to get down here. Come to my house. You know, so I go down there, and he had found out that he received Much Music on that satellite. And if you don't know, Much was the Canadian version of MTV, and they were playing shit that MTV wouldn't dream of playing. You know, they were playing like early Wasp with the blood and the gore. They were playing Venom. They were playing Motorhead. And they played this, Victor.
Oh, yes. Oh, you've got the vinyl. Oh.
I was just transfixed, man. And you know, I was already listening to the big four thrash bands and all the new wave of British heavy metal. But there was something different about Celtic Frost, man. There was just something sinister and dark about them. Not like overtly satanic, but just had that element of just evil. So anyway, I went down to our local record store, Toad Tape in Ogden at the time, and they didn't have it. And so I asked him to order it for me. He said, it's an import. It's going to take longer and cost more. But I said, I don't care. I need it. So anyway, he orders it for me. Calls me a couple weeks later, come get it. And so he hands it to me, and I hadn't seen the cover yet. And it was like he was handing me the Satanic Bible. You know, I was just like, oh my God, you know. And so I got home, put it on, and this was like a 2-for-1 kind of deal. You know, I got such an amazing album musically, but then it also opened the world to H.R. Giger to me, and cool. Salvador Dali and Bashinsky, all these amazing surreal artists. So this album really changed me, you know. As a matter of fact, it still hangs on the wall right up here. I had to take it down for this, but yeah, so Celtic Frost, to Megatherium.
Nice.
It's going to be kind of silly, I guess, but I paired it with, on the next album, Into the Pandemonium, they did the cover of Mexican Radio, right? So I met with Modelo.
Oh, there you go.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love this beer, you know. I mean, it's readily available. It's only like 5.4, but you can have several when you're out to eat, and it's just got that, it's smooth, it's got just a little bit of a bite to it that cuts through, you know, Hispanic food. So I mean, it's a great beer, and I love it.
Nice.
Yeah, Modelo's great, especially in the summertime.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, so after he told me that the Creator album, or excuse me, so I just blew it, but so he told me the Celtic Frost album was an import, right? And so I never did look through the imports much at Toe Tape, but after Celtic Frost, I was like, I need to start checking the imports. So I'm going through, and I bought this album strictly because of the cover art, the name, and its Creator.
Oh
yeah. Love this album. And you
Classic.
know, this just after that little trippy intro, it's just for like 12 minutes, it's just straight blast beats, man. It's just until the middle of Pleasure to Kill, it's just go time, pedal to the metal, you know. And this kind of really separated a lot of our friends. You know, we were still buddies, but you know, we all listened to Maiden, we all listened to Priest, Saxon, all that stuff. But a lot of the times I'd have a friend over and put Creator on, and you could see them just go like this, you know, because they didn't get it, you know. I mean, they just thought they were making noise. And so yeah, Creator is amazing. And I paired that with Big Brewery, Guinness. I love Guinness. Creator forever, and I've loved Guinness forever. So you know, I got these little cool special edition cans. I saved it.
That's cool. I've never seen that before.
Yeah,
that was interesting artwork.
There's just there's something about getting a Guinness on tap in that glass. They set it down, and those bubbles just come up, and you know, you get the chocolate milk mustache after drinking it. So anyway, number next, I have Victor to thank for discovering this band. So Victor calls me up one day, and he says, "Hey man, I've got an extra ticket to go see Morbid Angel and Dark Funeral. Do you want to go?" And I'm like, yeah, of course I want to go, you know. So anyway, there was another band playing that was opening up for them. But it's a band called Grave.
Oh, yeah.
And they were,
I played that tour.
Endless Procession of Souls. Yeah. And these guys are amazing. I don't know how popular they are in Europe or, you know, whatever, but in the States, it seems like nobody's heard of them. I've never, you know, at the time, I'd never seen their logo. I'd never seen their, there it is. That's the one.
Nice.
Dismemberment right
Yeah.
there.
You don't happen to have an, you don't happen to have an extra one.
I will look. If we have one of our band's practice space, I'll let you know.
Oh,
Cool.
cool. Thank you, buddy. Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, but yeah, Grave, Endless Procession of Soul. There's something about Ola Lindgren's vocals that, you know, sometimes to me, death metal, extreme metal, sometimes the vocals kind of sound a little thin to me. I don't know why, but these guys just remind me of the cover of Pantera's Vulgar Display of Power, man. They just hit you, man, and they're just so heavy and so extreme, and I just love them. They're a great band.
Right on.
So anyway, I paired this heavy drinking for a while, because the last time we did this, 4 of my 5 beers were dark, so I thought, well, I'm gonna have to go gather a bunch of stuff and start trying some stuff. But this stuff is it's Founders Breakfast Stout.
Great beer.
Nice.
And,
I love that stuff.
yeah, and this is out of Grand Rapids, and it's kind of big, you know. It's a 8.3, so it's, you know, it's a little bit of a sipper. But what it reminds me of taking like a black cup of coffee, sticking one of those little Hershey Special Darks in here, and then maybe a splash of whiskey. And this stuff, I mean, it is. I was, you know, the label, you know, you wouldn't think, yeah, it's got that little kid eating oatmeal on there. It might be a gimmick or something, but this stuff is the real deal, man. This is good, amazing beer.
Yeah, it is.
Sorry, Jerm, I apologize.
Yeah.
Can I interrupt you real quick?
No, go ahead.
So that show, that Grave, you know, that show, Morbid Angel and Dark Funeral. So I think when Grave was playing, we were up in the bar, and then I think you had said to me like, hey, let's go down, you know, let's get down on the floor. I'm like, okay. So we ended up right in front of the stage, and Dark Funeral played. Great show. And we were in front of I don't know if we were in front of Lord. I don't know. We were in front of one of the guitar players. I can't remember which one, but so they finished their set, and the roadies are, you know, cleaning up everything. And one of the roadies looks over at Jerm and I. He's like, hey, you guys want some water? I'm like, sure. So he throws us some bottles of water, you know, and it's, the house lights are up, but it's still kind of dark in there. And we both like open the water, and it didn't click. It didn't register in my head that I didn't feel a snap. So I throw the water back, and it tastes like makeup. We're drinking their water. Like, oh God. Like that's his water. This isn't, like both of us, I think we both got like makeup. Like their corpse paint in our mouths. Like, oh God.
Why would they do that?
I think it was an accident, because they just had a whole bunch of water on stage, and he just was like, hey, do you guys want some water? And just threw us. And I don't think he realized they were
had been drunk. No.
So anyway, sorry to interrupt.
Like, get it off stage for the headliner.
That's a great story. I forgot about that. That's awesome.
Probably wanted to forget about that.
Now you have to block it out all over again.
Yeah, exactly.
Cooties.
So this is kind of like the 7 Degrees of the Kevin Bacon Victor version, right? So I discovered Grave through Victor, and I couldn't find the Endless Procession of Souls anywhere, but I finally found it, and I'm looking through the G section, right? And just out of my peripheral vision, there's a record separator, and on the top of it, it says Goat Whore, and I'm like, well, that's a band I need to know about, right? You know, so this is. And this was the only, I got the CD at the time, but this was the only one they had, only disc they had there, and I got it. And I mean, I was thoroughly blown away. You know, these guys are hard and aggressive, satanic, everything you want in a metal band, you know, an extreme metal band. I'm going to go off on a little rant here, or not a rant, but like a fanboy thing. But I just seen these guys 10 days ago in Salt Lake City.
I was just going to say,
Yeah,
they just here?
There was just maybe 100 people there. I literally stood like 1 foot in front of Sammy Douay the entire show. And that guy is he's shot up on my favorite guitarist lists. You know, I don't know if Acid Bath, he was the guitarist for that. And man, Goat Whore are amazing. They were so tight, so amazing that I got to meet them. I mean, they were just way cool guys. And yeah, I can't say enough about Goat Whore. They're just amazing band.
Yes, they are.
So anyway, to pair with another beer that I discovered through Victor, because we used to go have beers now and again. And this one is a local brewery out of Mid-Bell, Utah. It's Bohemian, and this one's a Cherney Bock. It's a German black beer, and I had to pair it with because of the goat, right? So anyway, this stuff is just great, man. There's just hints of chocolate, hints of coffee. It's only like 4.6, so you know, Victor and I'd go out and have 3 or 4, and you'd be okay, you know. So, but yeah, a great beer.
Yeah, super good, easy to drink.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, it's great stuff. Album wise, I discovered this through Grave, through Goat Whore. I'm watching Goat Whore on YouTube, and the suggestion list comes up on the side, says, hey, you might like these guys. And these guys are out of Houston, Texas. And it's Prophecies of Eternal Darkness. And these guys are.
Oh, Jerm, sorry, something happened. You got in front of the mic there, and I couldn't hear the name of the band.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I can't hear you.
Yeah, every time you hold the record up, for some reason it blocks the sound.
Okay, Necrofire.
Necrofire.
Yeah, Prophecies of Eternal Darkness. These guys are out of
Nice.
Came out last year. And, incredible band. It's kind of like they took the whole metal section and did this, but threw out all the 80s glam. You know, it's just incredible, man. They've got guitar harmonies, you know, doom metal. You know, you just hear elements of all these different bands in it, you know. So Necrofire. And the last one here, to go with that, I went with a Russian Imperial Stout, and this is old Rasputin.
Oh, good.
Out of North Coast Brewing, Fort Bragg, California. It's just matter of fact, I just had some this morning actually, and it's just dark and intense, but not like way overkill, you know. It's a good beer to just slowly sip. So anyway, that was
a big deal when it came to Ohio.
I'm sorry?
That was a big deal when that came to Ohio, the old Rasputin.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
it's
good. Yeah.
Nice.
So and that's it. So
Nice.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Cheers.
thank you.
Well, thanks to all my guests. This was a blast. Thank you so much. A lot of cool bands, a lot of cool stuff I need to go check out for
Totally.
sure. I need to
Taking notes.
Yeah,
Me too.
I'm probably gonna hit you all up for your list.
Phone.
Yeah, that was great. So yeah, thanks everybody for watching. There'll be links in the page for if you want to check out Brittney's band and Taylor's bands. So there'll be some links so you can check those out. And yeah, cheers everybody. Thank you so much.
Cheers.
Thanks for having me.